We're going to make roast pork today, and this is a really cool recipe based off a recipe I learned at the River Cafe many years ago. It was like in the late 90s, 1999 to be precise. And we did this awesome filling with like prosciutto fat and mushrooms, and I hadn't done that kind of thing before. And I take that as inspiration for this recipe, but this is a much kind of simpler version of that. So here I've got a pork loin. This is in total about 600 or 700 grams, and I've taken the bones out, and I've also taken the skin off here. I've also taken the liberty of taking a little bit of the fat off here. There was about a centimetre layer of fat, and I've trimmed it down to about 2 to 3 mils all the way. So I'm going to put that back over to here for the moment, and we can make a filling for this. Because we've got beautiful figs, I kind of want to showcase those figs. Tear into these and just start to pick them into this mixing bowl. I kind of like getting a bit rough and handsy with it. Once you've got the fig in there, we can add some toasted pine nuts. And I want to put some kind of woody herbs into there as well. I really like that earthiness that this sage and rosemary, almost forgot to put it in, gives to this. So just about a handful of each will do. Then kind of bunch this up with your fingers and run through that with a knife. And you want to cut it fairly fine. Okay. Herbs go in. I'm going to take 1 or 2 garlic cloves as well. Just kind of squash it down. And that skin should just pop off. Say should. Yeah, it did. Okay, so a little pinch of salt. And we can just kind of run through the garlic with a knife. And like the herbs, you want to cut this fairly finely. That'll do it. Straight in. Okay, bread. I've got like a little ciabatta here. You could use any kind of bread you want. And I'm using fresh because I want that to really melt away and form this stuffing. It's more of a binder than anything. If you're gluten-free, you can always use gluten-free bread. Okay, that'll do it. And now we can start to finish up this. So I've got some cold pressed extra virgin olive oil. We get the good stuff in there. You want a couple of tablespoons of that. Cracked pepper. You can get quite generous with the cracked pepper. And some salt. Hold back on the salt just a little bit because we're using a lot of prosciutto in this recipe itself, which is super salty within its own right. So now get in there with your hands and kind of crunch all this together. And what I want you to do is really squash those figs and get all the jamminess out from there so it binds with the bread and makes the bread nice and soggy. And that's all come together nicely. You step away from the vehicle and give your hands a quick wash. Okay, back on the pork. So we don't actually use the skin in this recipe, but it'd be a shame to throw that away. You can keep it for crackling or something else. And what we want to do here is essentially make a pocket or butterfly. I'm going to butterfly it open. So take a sharp knife. Start with a knife about halfway down and very carefully make your way through that pork. And this is quite a small loin actually. A lot of the loins are much, much bigger. And then take the knife and make some really shallow kind of crisscross patterns there. And all this will do is create a nice, I guess, vehicle for that stuffing to really penetrate its flavour into the meat. So then I'm just going across the other way. Pork goes to the side, maybe to that side for 1 minute. Here on this piece of baking paper, I've got about 10-12 slices of prosciutto, and I've layered that out on the baking paper just so it's overlapping a little bit. And then the pork can go directly on top of that. Kind of try and put it in the middle as much as possible. And then we take this stuffing and just start to really push it into the pork there. We kind of spread it out so it's as even as possible. One thing I like about this dish is I've kind of taken flavors from another dish, figs and prosciutto, which is a really traditional kind of antipasto or starter dish. Take the time here to really push that stuffing out to the edges so it's evenly distributed, and then we can fold. So give your hands a little bit of a wipe, take your time, and carefully roll it over. So we do get that prosciutto going right through the center of this. Is awesome. So we have that kind of prosciutto fat that will render through the stuffing while it's cooking, and the prosciutto on the outside will obviously get really quite crispy. And before I truss this, truss this, we should mention that the oven is preheated on 200 degrees Celsius. So, here we've got some kitchen string. Trussing is something that I think people find really difficult. It's super, super easy. So we make a slip knot. So then we start on one side, and then you take the string and just fold it over itself, like that. And then so you can lift the pork up, slide the string under. I think we'll get one more in at the end. And then we can flip this pork over, and then you thread the string under each of those bits of string. And we come back to where we started. Cut the end bit off, and then you can kind of take any bits of rosemary you have or anything like that left, and you pop that under the string there, just for a little bit of flavour. Now, this is the kind of thing you could do the day before you want to cook this. This works really well. Get it all made. This takes a little bit of fiddling. It's a bit of hard work. Stick it in the fridge, and then the next day you're pretty much, you can put it in the oven and cook it. We're going to cook it right now because we're doing YouTube clips. Once you've got the pork done, we can get this into the oven. So grab a roasting pan and some extra virgin olive oil just on the bottom of the roasting pan, just like a tablespoon or 2 or 3. And here I've got a basic mirepoix, so onion, carrot, celery. This is essentially to cook the pork on top of, and it also gives us the foundation to make a gravy after if we wish. So that's like 2 carrots, 2 onions, a stick of celery, and I've also got a bit of fennel because I had it lying around as well. So that can go right into there. I've got some leftover sage here too, so that can go in. And some garlic cloves can go in as well. Okay. Pork goes straight on top, and we pop that straight into the preheated oven. This is done. This has been cooking for 1 hour. I probed this just before, and it's got an internal core temperature of 75 degrees Celsius, meaning it's ready to eat. I hope you guys enjoyed this clip. I'll catch you next week.